Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Turner, and we're very pleased to be here with you today for our webinar on enclosure shielding best practices, hosted by Bridge Marketing. And we'll be having Michael Onken will be speaking with us just in a moment. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. Albert Amin is our moderator, and we'll also be joined by special guest Joshua Chastain from LeaderTech to talk more in depth and answer your questions at the end of the initial presentation. And so with that, I'm very pleased to introduce a good friend of mine and a leader in the electronic representation industry, Michael Onken. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Steve. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. We have about 75 people signed up, so I think people will probably still be logging on here for the next minute or so. And so as they do so, I'm going to make a couple of quick announcements. First off, we'd love for Bridge Marketing to be your go-to for EMI solutions. LeaderTech has the enclosure shielding, which we're going to talk about today, but they have a lot of other EMI solutions as well. Also, API Technologies we represent. They design and manufacture their own ceramics, which go into things like their filter plates, filter tubes, and filtered connectors. And on the power conversion side, we represent Syncor and Recom Power. Syncor has a full line of line filters that go with the converters, which is very important. And also with Recom, their power supplies are best in class EMI performance. And they have, in fact, a special announcement, they have their own webinar series starting up here in about a month, or maybe a little bit sooner. The dates are still being worked out. A 4-part EMI webinar series on working with power supplies. Today, as Steve mentioned, Joshua Chastain's our special guest. He's got nearly a decade of experience at LeaderTech, handling every kind of EMI solution and question, solving problems for customers like yourselves. So he's got a wealth of information. The agenda will look something like this. We're going to have a short presentation by Joshua. It's not very long. It gets detailed and hopefully triggers lots of information for you, perhaps questions. There is a question and answer box, live event Q&A box. It's different from the chat box. Go ahead and throw in any questions in that chat box. And then when we're done, Joshua will be answering those questions live for you as we go along, and we'll publish those. Also, at the end of the presentation, please remember everybody gets a copy of this video presentation. So if you want to watch it again, you can. You'll also get a development kit from LeaderTech. This development kit has usable samples. So please go ahead and you'll be contacted by one of Bridge Marketing's account managers. We have 7 people that have all contacted you to join this webinar, and you'll hear from one of them to make sure, because as we're all working from home these days, or a lot of us are, we have to know what address to get your development kit to. So that said, almost there, one more quick announcement. This webinar is covering a topic. However, for your companies, you might have a need for a special one just for you. We could do a virtual lunch and learn. We could be under NDA, and we can cover very specific projects or concerns or questions that you have. So we're very open to that as well. Without further ado, Al, if you want to go ahead and get the presentation going with Joshua, thank you very much.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Joshua Chastain, and I'm an applications engineer at LeaderTech. This webinar will explain the enclosure shielding products that LeaderTech manufactures and how they work. LeaderTech is located in Tampa, Florida, and we have been in operation since 1984. We like to think of ourselves as a full-service EMI solutions manufacturer. We specialize in circuit board shielding, enclosure shielding, cable shielding solutions, absorbers, and we also offer a full line of thermal products. We work with all aspects of industry: aerospace, military, defense, telecom, medical, and commercial industries. We have around 130 employees. all of our manufacturing is done at our facility in Tampa, Florida. Leader Tech is a subsidiary of HEICO Corporation, a global aerospace, defense, and electronics company focused on niche markets. Operating for 62 years with two defined segments, flight support and electronic technologies. Our enclosure shielding products are designed for specific applications. Finding the right one starts with determining the application. EMI, RFI gaskets are fundamentally used to create an electrical seal between two surfaces. Doors to enclosures, joints between faces, grounding, etc. All of our gasketing options perform this function. Now the most important question is, what is the application? You can use two classes to further separate our enclosure shielding products and get closer to finding the right one for your application. One, there is mechanical, high cycle applications where a door is frequently accessed, being open and shut, a gap that can vary in size with the opening and closing, and wiping applications, to name a few. And two, there's low cycle and or environmental seals. These doors or compartments are rarely or infrequently accessed, and these can also offer protection from fluids, dust, or moisture. This slide shows the two classes and the enclosure shielding products we offer for each. For high cycle applications, we offer FSG, which is an acronym for Fabric Shielding Gasket, and Beryllium Copper Fingerstock. For low cycle applications that also offer an environmental seal, we offer knitted wire mesh combo gaskets, oriented wire, and conductive elastomer products. For low cycle and non-environmental needs, the FSG Fabric Shielding Gasket, knitted wire mesh, and conductive foam products work. For the next few slides, I will focus on the two high cycle enclosure shielding products, Fabric Shielding Gaskets and Beryllium Copper Fingerstock. Beryllium Copper Fingerstock is made from beryllium copper sheet metal, formed to the desired shape and heat treated to maximize the strength of the material. Choose beryllium copper when significant dynamic range is desired, wiping or shear forces are part of the application, or if the gasket must withstand a high number of cycles. FSG is extruded polyurethane foam with conductive copper nickel fabric wrapped around it. FSG gaskets are a more economical option than beryllium copper and are simply applied with a pressure-sensitive adhesive where you need them. Beryllium copper alloy is composed of 0.5% to 3% beryllium and is non-magnetic. It is used a lot for high reliability contacts and springs. We offer a variety of shapes and offer some extreme low profile options like the one pictured here. You can see a profile view or side view of a shape in 4 different stages of compression. There's the initial stage with no contact, the minimum recommended compression, nominal compression, and then the maximum recommended compression. We have named some of the series of Fingerstock according to their mounting method, and some have been named according to their design. There's slot mount, which clips into slots or slides onto mounted tracks. The folded series offers a large range of deflection and compression forces and are available with or without tape for alternate attachment methods. It's also available in a snag-free version where, under compression, the leading edge of the gasket slides into an extended and folded base, which prevents possible damage to the gasket. You can see that here. Compact PCI gaskets are designed for easy card insertion in rack mount applications. And the Twist series gaskets are designed for demanding compression applications. This series can compress to material thickness and is also available with or without pressure-sensitive adhesive. The list you see here is our standard plating options and their finish code for our part numbering system. The plating provides corrosion resistance for the fingerstock and, depending on your application, allows the beryllium copper fingerstock to mate with the other metal surfaces in your application. Our standard option is an unplated bright finish. You can see the letter code BD. We have many standard sizes and shapes available for our FSG, but they are easily customized as well. We can make new sizes to the standard shapes we offer and can also accommodate custom shapes to fit your application. This material can be die cut and laser cut, which you'll see here, and is great for custom I/O panels. We recommend them for frequency ranges from 20 megahertz to 10 gigahertz, operating temperatures from -40 Fahrenheit to 158 Fahrenheit, and I've measured shielding effectiveness from 80 decibels to 115 decibels. The material has passed a flammability rating of UL 94-V1 and is available with or without conductive or non-conductive PSAs. Switching over to low cycle and non-environmental applications, I will focus on knitted wire mesh and conductive products for the next few slides. Our conductive foam material is composed of resilient nickel-copper polyurethane foam layered between two pieces of conductive polyester fabric. This material is manufactured in sheets, and we can further die cut and laser cut the material to meet the needs of your application. This makes it also great for I/O panels. The target application is frequency ranges from 10 megahertz to 3 gigahertz, operating temperatures of -40 degrees Fahrenheit to 150 degrees Fahrenheit, and can also provide an average shielding effectiveness of 60 decibels. We recommend 30% compression of the material and is standard with or without conductive adhesive. Knitted wire mesh gaskets consist of many interlocking loops that act as small springs which provide for a resilient all-metal conductive gasket with high attenuation characteristics. It can provide shielding effectiveness up to 130 decibels in the E field and up to 80 decibels in the H field. The standard wire materials are tin-plated copper-clad steel, Monel, and aluminum in cross-sections of rectangular, round, round with fin, and double round with fin. All cross-sections are available in both all mesh or elastomer core configurations. If your application requires an environmental seal, these next slides will describe conductive elastomers, knitted wire mesh combo gaskets, and oriented wire. LeaderTech's conductive elastomers are made from 2 polymer bases and are mixed with 6 different metallic fillers. Both the silicone and fluorosilicone polymer bases offer shelf lives up to 20 years. Fluorosilicone differs from silicone because it contains trifluoropropyl groups, making it highly versatile for outdoor sealing applications or environments where exposure to sunlight, ozone, chlorination, or aromatic hydrocarbons is common. With the polymer bases, we use 6 conductive fillers to make 11 MIL-DTL 83528 certified materials, and some compounds outside of the military spec. MIL-DTL 83528 is a U.S. military detail specification for design requirements of conductive elastomers, such as the material, the performance of the material or part, and the limitations of the material or part. The scope of the specification says, this specification establishes the general requirements for electrically conductive elastomeric shielding gaskets. These gaskets are intended for use in electromagnetic interference, radio frequency interference, suppression applications. Having conductive elastomer materials approved for manufacture by the U.S. Department of Defense signifies that it has passed the inspections and tests of MIL-DTL 83528. This testing and inspection methods have their own requirements and standards as documented in their corroborating MIL or ASTM testing spec. There is a main specification that details the material compounds and their required characteristics, and 16 further specifications that detail their unique part numbering system, which you can see here, and part numbers, standard shapes, tolerances, sizes, all for extrusions, sheets, flange gaskets, O-rings, and waveguide gaskets. Conductive elastomers are composed of over 65% of the conductive metal filler. We combine the metal filler and polymer base in-house and use it to fit many applications. We mold sheets that can be die cut and laser cut and can extrude to multiple shapes. The extrusion can be bonded to make O-rings and frames. We also compression mold O-rings, frames, and waveguide gaskets. Mounting the conductive elastomer will depend on the shape and your application. As you see here, we recommend a specific deflection compression for every shape of the material, so it will be effective in the application. For grooves, a friction fit is recommended if possible, and at full compression, we recommend a maximum of 97% fill of the gasket in the groove. Rivets, bolts, spot bonding, and PSA are other ways to mount. Non-conductive adhesive is recommended for PSA and for spot bonding because conductive adhesives sacrifice adhesion strength with the addition of conductive particles. Knitted wire mesh combo gaskets are comprised of Monel or tin-plated copper-clad steel knitted wire mesh, which is then bonded to neoprene sponge, silicone sponge, or solid silicone elastomer strips. They are cost-effective for low cycling applications, provide high shielding effectiveness over a broad frequency range. The knitted wire construction provides long-lasting resiliency, and the combination with elastomer offers protection against moisture and/or dust. Oriented wire gasketing is constructed of Monel or aluminum wire oriented perpendicular to the mating surfaces and embedded in solid or sponge silicone elastomer. The wires create an electrical connection between the mating surfaces as well as create an environmental seal. They are only conductive in one axis, along the wire. The wire is crimped for additional resiliency and to optimize the mechanical performance of the gasket. It has between 700 to 900 wires per square inch. The material is available in strip or sheet form and can easily be die cut or laser cut into complex shapes or fabricated into custom frame gaskets. To alleviate electromagnetic interference and also make electrical contact, two metals need to mate. If those mated metals are contacted with a corrosive electrolyte such as water, galvanic corrosion can occur. A galvanic compatibility chart is a good tool to help decide the plating, wire, metal, or filler that may work best for your application. The electrochemical voltage between that metal and gold can predict the compatibility of metals. This is called the anodic index of the metal. The chart shown here lists 38 groups of metal with an anodic index voltage. For harsh environments like outdoors or high humidity, it is recommended that the difference between the metals not be more than 0.1 volts maximum. For example, nickel is 0.3 volts and beryllium copper is 0.35 volts. Their difference is 0.05. These metals are very compatible. For normal conditions, we recommend a max difference of 0.25 volts. This would be something like a warehouse that is not temperature or humidity controlled. And for controlled environments, we recommend a difference of 0.5 volts max. The best prevention for galvanic corrosion protection between the enclosure shielding gasket and mating surface is to choose compatible metals, plating on one or both of the mating surfaces, and controlling the environment from things like humidity or soil. All of our enclosure shielding gaskets require compression. We recommend a compression range for each product line and shape. If the gasket is compressed below the recommended range, it may not provide the intended performance. In the case of conductive elastomers, the material is metal particles with a binder. Those metal particles can only contact one another with compression to create electrical contact. Over-compressing the material can also cause issues. The material can break, and over-compressing conductive elastomers can create separation between the metal particles and reduce conductivity. Compression set and permanent set is also possible, and for some materials may occur within the recommended compression range. Depending on the size, temperature, percentage of compression, and the amount of time compressed, the material may not rebound fully to its original height. This is compression set. For some applications, such as low cycle or permanently closed gaps, the compression set may not affect the application. In conclusion, here are some key points to ponder when trying to determine the best enclosure shielding gasket for your application. What is the operating environment? Is it inside or outside? Is it a high cycle or is it a low cycle application? What materials will the gasket be mating to? How do you require the gasket to mount to your application? Are there space and weight limitations to your application? We appreciate you for taking the time to listen to this webinar. Please let us know if you have any questions.
All right, thank you, everybody. I hope that was informative. If you do, nobody's going to be an expert overnight on some of these things, and we do have, we have an 8th question. So we have 8 questions. We'll start, but I'll tell you do what I do is run to LeaderTech Engineer with any questions. So if this does spark any need for any upcoming projects that you have, work with your bridge marketing account manager. We'll get you the samples. We'll get the conversation started. But then when we go technical, we'll bring in the LeaderTech engineers such as Joshua or his counterparts immediately. And that's especially true since much of what LeaderTech provides for customers is custom. LeaderTech is in Florida. They're local. It's easy to get quick answers with a 3-hour time change, and we can usually get the very fast responses. So, Josh, we have 8 questions published so far. Anybody else who has a question, please publish it. Some of the questions are going to be kind of quick, so it shouldn't be a problem. But I want to make one more quick announcement. Steve Turner has a great company, Turner Time Management, and Steve, maybe you want to post your contact information in the chat box or something, because he has a lot of different services that I know some of the attendees on this call would be very interested in. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Steve to moderate these 8 questions, and if any others come in, please go ahead, send them in.
Thanks a lot, Michael, very informative presentation. We do have quite a few questions in here, and we are very fortunate to have our special guest Okay, folks, hopefully you can hear me now. Let's make sure that we've got our audio working properly.
We hear you just fine, Steve.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, very good, folks. Well, thank you for that great presentation. And the man who created that presentation, Joshua Chastain, is on with us live via the phone, participating remotely. Are you with us, Josh?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent.
How you guys doing?
I think we're all doing great. I'm just going to go ahead and start reading our questions. As Michael mentioned, we've already got quite a few. So we're going to start off with the first one, Josh, and it says, does LeaderTech have Galvanic data for FSG?
So no, not really. The FSG really needs to be in a climate controlled environment that has no catalysts present like water, etc., that would create the galvanic chemical reaction.
Okay, very good. And if you wanted some more follow-up on that question, whoever posted it, you can just feel free to submit another question. Next question we have is regarding laser cutting or die cut material. Is the adhesive conductive, Josh?
So, I mean, we can have either conductive or non-conductive on the material when laser cutting or die cutting. It's really up to you guys on your application, which you'd prefer.
Excellent.
But we can do both.
Very good. Next question is just a general one for the team, and that is this presentation being shared later? Yes. If we have the ability to get your contact information, we will be sending out you a copy of that recording. Michael, I'm assuming that your team will administer that, correct?
That is correct. That will be done shortly after this call.
Excellent. So next question is laser or die cut, one method preferred over the other, Josh?
That's a great question. And really, there's a few cases for both. Die cutting is going to be good for higher quantities and I guess more simple shapes. That's a steel roll die is made out of blades and then stamped into the material to cut it. For higher quantities and simple things, that'll be more effective than a laser, which cuts everything one at a time. Now, the laser is good for prototyping. There's no tooling or a die required. It's really just programmed in there. Laser is going to be much faster for the smaller quantities or more complex shapes as well. It can do much more things and more accurately too.
Excellent. Next question, what gasket has the best shear resistance?
Okay, so the beryllium copper is going to be the best shear resistance. The FSG, the fabric shielding gaskets, it does have a material, the fabric's called ripstop. So it does have some shear resistance, but compared to the beryllium copper, that's going to be king.
Okay, very good. And then next question is there a size limitation for the O-rings?
It's another good question. So for molded O-rings, there is a size limitation. Our largest sheet press is 20 by 20. So molding, that's our limitation with molding. We can bond O-rings though from rope or extrusion, and the size, there's really no limitation of the size on that.
Okay, excellent. Josh, another question for you. We have some great questions. Can conductive elastomers be stretched?
We do not recommend stretching at all. It is definitely only meant to be compressed. Stretching can ruin the material itself. I mean, you're pulling the particles apart, or you could even tear the material.
Okay. Which gasket is best when the chassis is wood and mating part is metal?
Interesting. That's an interesting application. If their metal is mating to wood, I'm not sure there would be an EMI. I mean, those two surfaces aren't good for mating for EMI purposes. You would want two conductive surfaces to make there. I guess we may need more detail if they want to, I guess, get back to us afterwards with more information on that.
Yeah, that one's a little more complex, and so whoever asked the question, which gasket is best when the chassis is wood and mating part is metal, you'll want to get that off to Michael, and then he can then get the Josh and the right resources on that one. So great question. Need more work on that one.
And let me jump in. Not everybody probably has an application with wood, but we see that a lot with plastic. So probably very similar to a lot of plastic enclosures. That what do they do about EMI? Maybe you could address that quickly, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, any non-conductive mating surface is going to be a challenge when you need to create an EMI seal. That non-conductive surface is just basically a big hole for frequencies.
Okay. All right, very good. Let's go ahead to the next question, and that is if you are using an elastomer in a permanent condition, no cycling, and you need to repair, etc., do you need to replace the gasket?
That's, I guess it'll depend on the condition of the gasket. If the gasket is deformed severely and doesn't make contact with both surfaces, you will probably need to replace it. If it's still springy and has most of its same characteristics, you probably don't need to replace it.
Got it. Define your definition of high cycle versus low cycle, Josh.
So high cycle, I mean, it's relative really, but if something's opening and closing multiple times a minute, an hour, a day, something like that, that's kind of high cycle. Low cycle, very infrequently being open and closed, down to not being open and closed at all. That's a low cycle.
Okay, got it. Very good. We saw mostly gasket type EMI products in the presentation. Do they also offer solder on or press on, quote, can shields for PCBAs?
Yes, definitely. We have a lot of different shield options for board level shields for circuit boards and things like that.
And I'll jump in. Let me jump in, Steve. That this presentation was specifically about enclosure shielding, but for those of you who design boards and are more interested in board shielding, we have a number of presentations as well as some of the samples in your development kit will have board shields, and we have a lot of information. That's probably, I don't know percentages, but it's probably 70% of our business or some large percentage of the business is with the board shielding. So please reach out to us if that's of interest to you.
Excellent. And we currently have 3 more questions in the live event Q&A. So if you do want to ask questions, please make sure you get those in soon, so we don't. So we do get a chance to answer that. The next question is chemical resistant and water resistant. Is that the case?
For the conductive elastomers, there are different chemicals that, like the fluorosilicone, can handle different chemicals than the silicone base. Both of those will be water resistant. If you have specific chemicals you need, I guess, questions about, you can forward that to us and we can look into it. There are some, the military has a list, the military spec, sorry, has a list of exact chemicals that it does need to pass. That's available on the internet as well as a public file.
Okay. Next question. What is the typical NER tooling for die cutting?
Typical, I mean, that's hard to answer. It's for the simpler and smaller, the lower the price. The more complex or the amount up, like if you're wanting it to cut 6 of the same shape at the same time, that's going to be more than one. It really depends on the shape and size.
Okay, very good. Let's go on to our next question. What type of adhesive is used on the EMI gaskets? Does it leave residue over time, and does it smear?
So most of the gaskets use an acrylic type of adhesive, a 2-sided that we apply here. The conductive elastomers need to be primed, and that adhesive is applied on there. It does not leave a residue nor smear.
Got it. Okay, very good. Next question is, are custom shapes available in the beryllium copper strips?
Yes, we can do custom shapes as well.
Awesome.
Let me jump in on that one again, Steve. The way the grooves and the pitch match up to your individual enclosure might not be perfect. So, and the EMI, correct me if I'm wrong, Joshua, the EMI issues are often at those seams on the corners. And so we've worked with a number of customers to make sure that there's good EMI metal, at the ends of where the enclosure is. So we can work with you to figure out exactly which Fingerstock is appropriate, and we can custom cut those lengths so that they match up perfectly on the seams where you might have some EMI issues. Is that correct, Joshua?
Yes, exactly.
Excellent. Well, Michael, it might be beneficial, because the questions are continuing to come in, for you to maybe chat in the live Q&A, just respond with an announcement of your email address, so that people, if they've got some questions in mind, they can go ahead and put them through here. That might help out.
Yeah, we're okay with that, because we have everybody's email addresses as part of the invite for this webinar, and we're going to send this out. I think that brings up a good point, though. There was that question about board shielding solutions. We're going to go ahead and email with the presentation. We'll go ahead and email a link to the board shielding page for the LeaderTech website. And in there, I want to make a note that for any of you that have high volume applications, we do have a really nice series of board shields that are lower cost, and they come on tape and reel for some high volume applications. So some great solutions there. That's not what this webinar was about, but we'll provide that link to you.
Okay, very good. Well, we'll go ahead. Thank you, Michael. We'll continue to answer the questions. We've got some more in here. What is the rule of thumb for metal opening and gasket to use?
That's a interesting question. Good one. It's really going to depend on the size of the opening, the type of metal that the mating surfaces are, and I guess the environment as well. Rule of thumb is there's not really one. The presentation went into quite a few things about which one to choose and where.
Got it. And then the last question we have in our live Q&A at this point, I'm going to go ahead and say that. So if anybody has any additional questions, now's a great time to get them in. But the question is outgassing with the gasket materials.
Okay, yeah, outgassing is, I'm assuming for a space environment, it's always a concern, and all of the materials, there is some outgassing. We don't have, I believe we're in the process of testing our conductive elastomers now to get some solid data on the amount of outgassing they do have, but it is a concern and something to think about if you are designing a gasket for a space application.
Okay, very good. Well, that concludes what we have in the live event Q&A, and we kind of ran the gamut there. So I'm going to turn it back over to Michael as we don't have any additional questions at this time.
All right. Well, again, I just want to thank everybody for taking a little time out. We hopefully were respectful of your time and provided you some good information. We want to engage. This is a difficult time with COVID and everybody working from home and being a little more remote. And so we want to keep the communication lines open. So hopefully this was just reminding you that LeaderTech offers some amazing solutions for your enclosure shields, as well as other EMI solutions and other products as well. We have some thermal products and some RF microwave solutions as well. So hopefully they keep that in mind. Again, your bridge marketing account person will contact you with an email with the presentation and with the board shield link, and also asking you the question. Your call to action is how do we get the development kit to you? So we'll need an address to either ship to. Oh, I do see, Steve, we have 2 more questions. Josh, are you still there? I'll go ahead and publish 1 and 2. And we have 2 more questions here if you want to take a quick look at those, and then we'll end the call if there's no more.
Yep, I've got the next one I've got is, will there be other events for other EMI products? That's one for you, Michael.
Oh, I guess I should have read it before I published it. We don't have anything on the calendar. As I mentioned, Recon Power has a 4-part EMI webinar that will be starting up in about 3 weeks. I would probably prefer to, I'm just thinking out loud here, we probably prefer to have a specific call, either one-on-one or for your team at your company, and then we can get real specific to your needs. I'm not commuting an hour each way to work right now, so I think we all have a little more time to do these types of virtual lunch and learns and do it more specifically. However, if there's interest, please email back when your bridge person contacts you that you would like more of these. As I mentioned, we have other lines on our line card, and we also have some unbelievable other solutions from LeaderTech. As the first one on my list would be the board shields, of course. But we would be happy to throw another webinar if you give us feedback on what topics that interest you, and if they're topics that are for general consumption that everybody can jump on today, or is it going to be something that is too specific to your application that will do something tailored just for your company? We can do both. So yes, I hope we see you again in the very near future. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, here's that last question you were mentioning, Michael. Anything specific to RF applications, Josh?
I think I'm assuming, is that further on the EMI, I guess, events for the future?
It seems like that would be the case, yes.
As of right now, I guess to be determined.
Okay. Okay, well, Josh, I really, we all really appreciate you coming in remotely and being able to answer these questions. And Michael, since we've done with the Q&A, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you for a wrap up, sir.
Okay, we just got an anonymous thank you from the audience that I'll embarrass myself. That thanks for the webinar. It wasn't really a question, but he said thank you for not being too salesy. So no, our goal here was to give you technical information and open the dialogue so that we can solve your problems. Much of what LeaderTech does is custom, so we have to have that dialogue. And so definitely thank you very much. I hope it was useful, and we didn't take up too much of your time. So from that, that's all I have. Thank you very much. Bye.